Look around you and feel the energy in this moment. Do you sense it? That subtle, powerful pull urging you to listen, to open your heart, to examine your soul. There is something extraordinary taking shape right here, right now. Some might call it an awakening. Others might see it as a reckoning. I call it a divine mission, an urgent call to peel away the layers of pride that hide who we truly are and who we can become. I stand before you not as someone flawless, but as someone on this very journey, recognizing that pride can cloud our vision, chain our growth, and make us numb to the truth that's waiting to set us free. Often we carry pride as a shield. We say, I've got everything under control, or I don't need anyone's help. But deep down, we feel a quiet H, a lingering whisper in the night telling us we're not as breakable as we pretend. That whisper might keep us awake at 2 in the morning. It might show up in the form of self-doubt or guilt, or the anxiety that grows when we realize we can't do it all alone. Some of you have felt this. Some of you might be feeling it right now. I invite you to think back to a moment when you wore pride as armor. Maybe you turned away from a friend who offered a hand. Maybe you pushed away loved ones with good intentions. Or perhaps you told yourself you didn't need any guidance, no matter how lost you felt inside. In that moment, did you feel empowered? Or did you sense a crack forming in your foundation? It's that crack we're here to address. Because pride, despite seeming strong, often leads to walls that isolate us, illusions that misguide us, and a stubbornness that keeps us from real connection. When we allow pride to guide our decisions, we start to justify our own lies, ignore constructive criticism, and avoid the uncomfortable but necessary lessons that life is trying to teach us. We spin stories in our minds that we're invincible, that we can fix everything ourselves. Yet reality has a way of humbling even the mightiest among us. Our mission tonight is to break this illusion, this pride that prevents us from stepping into our divine purpose. And in confronting that pride, we reveal a far more powerful force of truth. Truth about who we are, what we're meant to do, and how we're called to serve each other. This truth isn't always easy to accept. Sometimes it means admitting mistakes or acknowledging scars we'd rather hide. But genuine freedom is found when pride melts away and humility takes root. That's the gateway to transformation. That's where real power lies, in the willingness to look ourselves in the mirror and say, I need help. I need guidance. I need growth. Once we reach that point, a whole new world of possibility opens up. Make no mistake, we're discussing a life-changing idea here. Pride is a tricky adversary. It shows up wearing different masks: ego, stubbornness, fear. When we break down these barriers, we become more receptive to wisdom and grace. We heal relationships we thought were broken beyond repair. We find meaning where we once found only emptiness. And in doing so, we embrace a path that lights us up from the inside. Tonight is about stepping forward together, unburdened by the weight of false pride. It's about allowing ourselves to be vulnerable enough to learn, to love, and to become unstoppable forces for good. That is our divine mission, to break pride and reveal truth so that each of us can shine in the world with an honest, unfiltered brilliance that leads others to see the light within themselves as well. Now, let's dive deeper into how pride infiltrates our lives, why it's so tempting, and how we can dismantle it brick by brick. I want you to lean in. I want you to examine your own heart. I want you to ask yourself the hard questions, the ones that force you to confront what you've been avoiding. Yes, it may sting at first, but I promise you, the sting is worth it. Every step toward humility is a step toward liberation. And that liberation, that freedom from the tyranny of our own inflated egos, is where the beauty of truth resides. Let's explore this journey together, guided by a higher calling to be more honest, more open, and more committed to the people around us. We have a mission to fulfill, and tonight, we begin by breaking the chains of pride and uncovering the powerful truth we were destined to hold. The first thing I want us to recognize is how pride plants itself in our daily actions. It starts off small, sometimes imperceptible. You do something great. Maybe you ace a test or land a promotion. And that well-deserved feeling of achievement slowly turns into a sense of superiority. You find yourself thinking, I don't need anybody's advice, I've got this. It's subtle, but it grows. Before you know it, you're shutting out feedback, ignoring the wisdom of mentors, and standing alone in battles that could have been shared. Pride wants you isolated because isolation feeds the illusion that your perspective is the only one that matters. Let's look at how that misleads us, how it causes us to miss crucial signals, and how, ultimately, it steers us away from opportunities to truly thrive. Take the story of a brilliant musician who rose to stardom fast. He believed his talent elevated him above the need for discipline or critique. When fans praised him, he swelled with ego, distancing himself from the very people who shaped his music. Slowly, he stopped growing, stopped evolving, until one day, he couldn't fill a small auditorium. Where did all his promise go? It evaporated in the heat of unchecked pride. The tragedy wasn't losing fame. It was never realizing his potential because he refused to be taught, guided, or corrected. Pride blocked the truth that could have propelled him to greater heights. If we're not careful, the same pattern can appear in our own journeys. We might have bright ideas and incredible energy, but pride can dull that spark faster than any external obstacle. Pride loves to whisper that we're good enough, that we know it all, that there's no reason to listen to others. But the truth is, no matter how talented, wise, or accomplished we are, there is always more to learn, always a new level to reach, always a deeper nuance to explore. How can we break this cycle? We start by taking an honest self-inventory. Ask yourself, where am I refusing to listen? Who have I been avoiding because their perspective challenges my ego? What lessons have I dismissed because I didn't like the messenger? These questions can shine a bright light on areas of growth we've overlooked. The consequences of ignoring these questions are profound. Pride doesn't just affect us, it affects everyone around us. Our relationships suffer. Our ability to collaborate falters. We miss out on creative synergy because we're too consumed with protecting our fragile sense of superiority. And let me tell you, there's nothing more fragile than a prideful heart. It might roar on the outside, but inside, it's trembling at the thought of being found inadequate. So let's flip that script. Let's transform that roar of pride into a hum of humility that resonates far and wide. Let's choose moment by moment to listen more than we speak, to gather counsel from those who have walked the path before us, and to stay open to learning from those just starting out. Everyone has a piece of wisdom to share, if only we are willing to receive it. Picture the relief that comes when we do. Picture letting go of the need to appear perfect, the need to have all the answers. Imagine the doors that open when we admit, I don't know. Teach me. Suddenly new ideas flow in, new alliances form, and we find ourselves on a path that's bigger than our personal ambition. That's the divine mission in action. Understanding that we are here not just to achieve on our own, but to lift each other, to cultivate a community of truth seekers rather than a kingdom of isolated monarchs. This shift in perspective isn't weakness. It's the foundation of real strength. When we free ourselves from the burden of pride, we unlock the full force of our potential. We step into a space where growth is constant, collaboration is cherished, and respect is mutual. Now, how do we sustain this renewed mindset? It's not enough to break pride once, it tries to creep back in. We must practice daily humility. Write down your lessons learned. Seek feedback even when it's uncomfortable. Surround yourself with truth tellers, people who will look you in the eye and say, you are off track, when you need to hear it most. Yes, it can be painful, but pain can be a powerful teacher when it directs us toward the truth. So commit to a routine of reflection, morning meditations or late night prayers, where you lay down your ego and invite growth. Pride will resist, but your soul will flourish. Remember, the moment we think we've mastered humility is often the moment pride sneaks back in. Stay vigilant and stay connected to a higher purpose that reminds you every single day you are part of something greater. And that greatness thrives on unity, not isolation. The ripple effect of this daily practice is profound. You become the kind of person who brings out the best in others. Your humility encourages a safe space for collaboration. Your vulnerability inspires those around you to open up, and your willingness to serve rather than dominate sends a loud, clear message. Truth matters more than ego. That's the mission we're on. You, right now, are an essential part of it. Let's carry this forward, because there's another side of pride we need to address. The side that stems from fear, from insecurities we bury deep. Sometimes, pride is just a cloak we wear to disguise our doubts. Let's peel back that layer too, and see how we can transform fear-based pride into courageous truth. Let's continue by looking at pride born not from success or overconfidence, but from fear and insecurity. It's that voice that says, if I admit I'm vulnerable, I'll get hurt. If I lower my guard, people will see my flaws, and I can't handle that. This form of pride can be even more destructive because it wears the mask of self-preservation. We think we're keeping ourselves safe by shutting others out, by never letting them see what's beneath the surface. But in reality, we're just building thicker walls around a heart that yearns to be free. Pride in this sense isn't arrogance. It's a desperate attempt to hide our wounds. Yet if we never let the light in, those wounds never heal. We stay trapped in a cycle of isolation, pushing people away, when we need them most, turning a cold shoulder to the very support that could lift us up. Consider the story of someone who's been hurt in the past. Maybe they opened up once, only to be betrayed. Now, every time a helping hand is offered, they recoil. They tell themselves, never again. And they allow pride to step in disguised as strength. That same pride whispers lies. You don't need anyone. You're better off alone. So they keep everyone at a distance. They never share their dreams or fears. They never ask for help, even when drowning in problems. Eventually, life's storms become too overwhelming to face alone. And they realize they're isolated not because no one cared, but because they pushed everyone away. That's the heartbreak of letting fear-fueled pride control us. We sabotage connections. We rob ourselves of the healing power of community. And we miss out on the joy that blossoms when people unite, support each other, and carry one another's burdens. If this resonates with you, know that there is a way out. First, acknowledge the root cause of fear. When pride is born from fear, it's crucial to approach yourself with compassion. Ask, what am I so afraid of? Perhaps it's rejection, betrayal, or the feeling that you're not enough. By naming that fear, you bring it into the light. Darkness loses its grip when exposed. Next, share your fears with someone you trust, a mentor, a friend, a counselor. Speak it out loud. Let the vulnerability flow. You'll find that the moment you release that fear into the open, it loses half its power over you. And as you do this, remind yourself that vulnerability is not weakness. It's the very definition of courage, choosing to show up without a guaranteed outcome, trusting that there is growth in the process. But let's not romanticize vulnerability without action. True transformation involves taking real steps to heal. That might mean setting boundaries with those who have hurt you in the past, seeking professional help if the wounds run deep, or finding spiritual guidance that resonates with your soul. The key is movement, recognizing that you can't stay stuck in the same place, repeating the same patterns and expect a different result. You can't expect pride to crumble if you cling to it for dear life. Sometimes it requires a leap of faith, and that leap might feel like stepping off a cliff. But if you take it with sincerity, you'll discover that you land on solid ground of self-awareness and renewed faith in the goodness of others. Ask yourself, are you tired of living in a fortress of fear? Are you exhausted from constantly having to maintain that tough exterior? Do you crave deeper connections where people see the real you? If the answer is yes, then break the cycle. Seek out spaces and people that nurture honesty. Make a habit of sharing something heartfelt each day. An insight, a concern, a small dream. As you do, watch how people respond with empathy, with encouragement, and maybe even with their own stories of vulnerability. You'll start to realize that we're all in this together. Nobody has it all figured out. Nobody goes through life unscathed. Your openness can inspire theirs, creating a beautiful exchange of truth and support that lifts you both higher. Perhaps the most remarkable outcome of stepping away from fear-based pride is discovering that your flaws and scars do not define you. They refine you. Through openness, you transform shame into wisdom, insecurity into humility, and fear into faith. You grow stronger not in the sense of being unbreakable, but in the sense of being beautifully resilient. You learn that real strength is bendable, flexible, willing to adapt and learn. It's not about never falling. It's about rising each time you do. And when you rise without pride weighing you down, you soar higher than you ever could have imagined. That is the power of shedding fear, standing in humility, and embracing the truth of who you are, scars and all. Now, as we stand together at this pivotal point, let's remember that none of us is alone. Each of us carries wounds, hopes, fears, and dreams. Each of us has felt the sting of pride shutting us off from potential breakthroughs. But tonight, we choose differently. We choose to unite in a collective commitment to face our fears, to dismantle our pride, be it arrogance or self-protection, and to walk boldly into a future guided by love and truth. In doing so, we open ourselves to the lessons that life, that faith, that each other can offer. And we create a community of humility and compassion that not only transforms us individually, but illuminates the path for those who are still trapped in the shadows of pride. My friends, we have traveled through the thorny underbrush of pride, examined the ways it ensnares us, from self-centered arrogance to fear-induced isolation, and we have glimpsed the promise of what lies beyond. We're left now with the big question: how do we harness this new understanding to reshape our lives? How do we move forward in a way that sustains our humility, fosters connection, and keeps our eyes fixed on the divine mission of uncovering truth? Let me remind you of the key insights we've explored and then gather those lessons into a single, unstoppable call to action. We began by uncovering how pride takes root in small, seemingly harmless moments. We noted that success, accomplishment, or even a single compliment can inflate our egos if we're not watchful. We recognized how pride distorts our perspective, convincing us we know all we need to know. We saw the tragic examples of how this lie can stunt our growth, rob us of vital learning opportunities, and eventually isolate us from the people and wisdom we need most. We concluded that daily introspection, asking ourselves honest questions, seeking counsel, and embracing humility is the antidote to this creeping arrogance. We understood that when we open our minds and hearts, we blossom in ways we never thought possible. Then we shifted focus to pride fueled by fear, a protective shell we build when we've been wounded, betrayed, or simply feel inadequate. We learned that this type of pride masks itself as survival, convincing us we're safer alone. Yet we also saw the danger in shutting out those who can help, care, and guide us. We explored real stories of individuals who, in trying to protect their hearts, ended up locked in loneliness. We realized that the way out begins with recognizing fear for what it is, naming it, and speaking it out loud. Vulnerability, we discovered, is not a sign of weakness, but a bold act of courage that leads to deeper relationships and genuine healing. We marveled at how, once we set aside pride, our wounds begin to heal, our hearts open, and our spirits expand to embrace a shared human experience defined by empathy, trust, and support. So what do we do with all of this? We take responsibility for our next step. Life hands us crossroads every single day. Opportunities to either lean on pride or walk toward humility. We choose humility. We choose to examine ourselves with honesty, we ask, where have I let arrogance or fear hold me back? Where have I shut someone out who was offering wisdom or kindness? Where can I show up more authentically, even if it means exposing my vulnerabilities? We don't just ask these questions once. We make it a daily habit. We create space in our routines. Moments of quiet reflection, prayer, meditation, journaling to confront the ways pride still lingers. And each time we catch pride trying to weave its way back in, we say, no more. Because the truth is too precious and our mission is too vital to let pride have the final say. Let's also cultivate communities that embrace this ethos. We all have circles of influence, family, friends, colleagues, neighbors. Imagine if each of us went back to our communities determined to model humility. Imagine if we made it safe for people to share their struggles, to admit their mistakes, and to seek help without fear of judgment. Picture the synergy that would emerge, the breakthroughs we'd witness, the strength that would blossom from bonds forged in honesty rather than guarded by ego. If you're a parent, let your children see you apologize when you're wrong. If you're a leader at work, welcome feedback from the newest team member. If you're a friend, ask how you can help instead of waiting for someone to plead for support. This isn't just about grand gestures. It's about the little, everyday acts that chip away at pride and invite truth into our midst. Moreover, remember that pride does not surrender easily. It will come back in a new disguise, especially in moments of victory or defeat. When you achieve success, pride might whisper, "Look at you, invincible." When you stumble, it might say, "You failed. Shut everyone out." Recognizing these voices is half the battle. The other half is choosing to stay open, to keep learning, to be gracious with yourself and others. This is where faith in a higher purpose or a higher power can ground you. When you believe your life is part of a divine mission, you realize it's not just about you. It's about something larger, something that calls you to be the best version of yourself for the greater good. That perspective crushes the narrow walls of ego. It elevates your heart towards service, compassion, and unwavering dedication to the truth. When doubt creeps in, and it will, remember that you are not alone. Pride isolates, but humility invites connection. Turn to your mentors, your support network, or your faith community. Ask for prayer, advice, or simply an ear to listen. Sharing your journey not only keeps you accountable, it also helps others see they can do the same. That is the beauty of humility. It multiplies. One honest moment can spark another. One confession of weakness can inspire someone else to let go of their guard. This is how real transformation spreads, not through big shows of perfection, but through a cascade of genuine authenticity that touches hearts and dissolves barriers. Make no mistake, this path is not always easy. Pride can feel comfortable, especially if we've worn it as armor for years. But comfort is not the same as growth. True comfort arrives when we rest in the knowledge that we are living in alignment with our values and our highest calling. True comfort is the peace that emerges when we stop fighting to maintain a facade and start embracing the sacred truth of who we are. That peace is worth every ounce of effort. It's worth the awkward conversations, the momentary sting of admitting we're wrong, the challenge of reevaluating old habits. Because on the other side of those fleeting discomforts lies genuine freedom. Freedom to be fully alive, fully in love with life, fully open to the gifts that others have to offer. I stand before you now, urging you to carry this message forward in your homes, your workplaces, your social circles, and your quiet moments alone. Choose humility. Let it guide your words and shape your actions. Let it open your eyes to the unseen hurts of those around you. Let it give you the courage to admit, I'm still learning, and the resolve to keep going when the journey gets tough. And above all, let it be the cornerstone of a life that radiates authenticity and truth, because you have a vital role to play in this divine mission. It's not an accident that you're here tonight, hearing these words, feeling the surge of recognition in your soul. You are called to break pride in your own life, and by doing so, you become a beacon of hope for those who are still trapped in its grip. So let's end on a note of boldness. Take a breath and decide, right here, right now, that you will not allow pride to dictate your story any longer. You will not allow it to stand between you and the people who can help you grow. You will not let it rob you of the truth that's waiting to set you free. Instead, you will walk forward in humility, in courage, and in faith that this path leads to a life of purpose and fulfillment. I believe in you, in your strength, in your ability to rise above the illusions of ego. I believe in your willingness to reach out and hold someone else's hand as they make the same journey. Together, we can transform our families, our communities, and our world by living in alignment with a higher truth. That is the call. That is the mission. And it begins right here in this moment with your decision to let humility be the guiding force of your life. May you find the courage to keep going when the road is dark, the grace to learn from every stumble, and the profound joy of discovering that in breaking pride, you unleash the magnificent power of truth for yourself and everyone around you. Now, go forth and live it out. You are ready and the world is waiting.